So our next question is about infidelity. Infidelity means different things to different people. What can couples do to make sure that they're on the same page? What do you suggest couples do if they have different viewpoints about cheating?
Well, that's really a fundamental issue in relationships. And what makes it complicated is it's really two issues. That when a couple is thinking about or negotiating, defining what cheating is or what infidelity is, it really is raising two issues. One is, what's the nature of our relationship? Because if the idea of cheating implies that we have an agreement, that we have an established relationship where cheating would not be allowed, or some kind of cheating would not be allowed. And often that's not been negotiated, or that's not been explicit yet in a couple, if a couple's early on, or if a couple's just started dating. So step one is to establish what kind of relationship do we have, and that's a reasonable conversation to have in most relationships, even if the answer isn't we're totally committed now. We can say, hey, what do you feel like this thing
Yeah, we're checking
is?
it out.
We're checking it out. We're just touching base with each other. Once a couple understands that they have a relationship or they're in a committed relationship, only then does cheating become an issue, that cheating become a possibility. You have to have something to cheat on. And that can be a threatening conversation. Of course, the time to address these issues is early. It's before cheating has happened or before you've engaged in a behavior that might cross a line. And yet, early on in the beginning, in the heady, romantic first months of a relationship, that's not the time to say, oh, I love you, this is so great. By the way, what would be cheating for you? I'm just curious, just want to touch base on that. You don't want a partner to be thinking about cheating at that point. So how do you do it? And yet, especially if this is something you really want to know about, how do you find out? I think there are ways that that are creative, that are sensitive, and that are non-confrontational. I'm going to throw one out. It sounds a little trite, but there are ways to explore issues by talking about a third party. Talk about somebody else, a friend. Like, hey, here's some funny story I heard today. Here's a couple. This is a behavior that happened. What do you think? Do you think that would be cheating? That's a much less threatening way of addressing and exploring your partner's opinions about these issues, much less threatening than saying, I'm attracted to other people. Would it be okay if I slept with them? Something a little bit testy about the latter version. And then once you've explored your partner's position and you know about what you feel and what your partner feels, then if there are differences of opinion, that's the time to say, okay, well, then let's talk about that, because I think we might not be on the same page. And it's important to get on the same page early on before we do something where we feel like we've betrayed or hurt each other. But there are ways to test the waters in a non-confrontational way, and that's probably best.
What's important about this question is that at the heart of it is this idea of trust, and that when infidelity happens and trust becomes difficult to establish and sustain in the relationship, then opportunities for doubt creep in, and relationships become very difficult at this point. So what Ben's saying is very important, because you don't want to have these issues when trust is already being negotiated. You want to assume that the trust is in place, do what you can to sustain that, have conversations about that, so that the foundation of trust that you start a relationship with really is in place and is not violated by any perceived acts of infidelity in relationships. I think in relationships it's really important to recognize that we as relationship partners have a responsibility to think about how attracted we are to other people and what that means. Especially in the early stages of a developing relationship. We have to have that conversation with ourselves. We have to have maybe that conversation with a close friend of ours, and to wonder about our own commitment to the relationship before we can come to our relationship partner and say, here's where I am with this. And at the same time, I think it's important to recognize that there's a lot of gray area around what could be infidelity. Many people would say a year or two into a relationship, really having sex with another person after you've been with your partner for 24 months, that really is an abrogation. That's really a violation of a trust that has been established in the relationship. But there can be more subtle forms of infidelity that can be as damaging in relationships. And this can be as simple as someone saying to a friend, look, my relationship with Joe isn't going so well, and I need some help with that. And here are the specific issues. Maybe here are some sexual issues that we're having, or Joe's not emotionally responsive to me. If Joe finds out about you having that conversation with a friend of yours, that can really be, that can really feel like the boundaries of the relationship have been overstepped. And so it's important to really be careful about not just sexual infidelity, obviously that's huge, it's very important, but to recognize too that you have an emotional bond with your partner, and that what you share with your partner really should stay within the confines of your relationship until you have really a good basis for going outside that. That's a conversation that you need to have, not just around sexual issues, but around emotional issues and who you're going to turn to for support and compassion and understanding when things aren't going so well within the relationship.
That's a great point, Tom. And actually, it's something that modern technology makes especially kind of salient and a little bit hairy. So now with Facebook, it's very easy to make connections to people outside the relationship, old boyfriends or potential new relationships that your partner needn't know about. At the privacy of your own desk, you can make that connection.
Yeah. So now the opportunities for trust to get nibbled away in our relationships are virtually as close as our cell phone. I mean, they're omnipresent.
Really and then it makes understanding your own needs and the agreement that you have with your partner, implicit or explicit, all the more important.
Yeah.
All the more important.